Back to this Russian hacking for a moment and the seriousness of the allegations that they're making here. We're joined by Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. Hans, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine.
So to listen to the White House spokesman, Josh Earnest, who I can only assume represents the president in saying this, they're saying that not only did Donald Trump know about this, he encouraged it, and there should be a full investigation. What's your take on where this has gone in the news cycle the last 24 hours?
Well, there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support anything that Josh Earnest just said. Let's start at the very beginning. They keep using the term interference in the election. They're trying to blur the distinction between what happened, which is somebody got inside the DNC computer system, and the voting and counting of ballots. And what I mean by that is, look, we know for certain that there was no interference in the casting of ballots on Election Day and the counting of ballots. In fact, there was an interview just this week, Washington Post interview with Jay Johnson, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and he specifically said that they had no evidence that there were any hacking attacks into the casting of ballots or the counting of ballots. So the only thing this all boils back down to is the hacking, supposed hacking, into the DNC computers. That's not interfering with the election. What happened there was the truth got out that the DNC was presenting this false narrative to the public that they were being neutral in the Democratic primary. Instead, the truth got out that they actually were working to freeze Bernie Sanders out, and also that they were coordinating with the media. I'm not saying it's not serious, but the idea that that's getting the truth out of what the DNC was actually doing, that that's somehow interfering in our election process, I don't agree with that at all.
What about the story in the media the last day or so that by arguing over whether it was Russia or China or whatever the case may be, that Donald Trump is actually siding with our enemy? I heard Jake Tapper from ABC News say that. In fact, I've got the soundbite here. That Tapper draws the conclusion that by questioning the CIA's assessment, Trump is siding with our enemy. And it sounds to me like an argument that's designed to set up a defense moving forward as to an excuse for why the Democrats lost and to try to bolster their base for the next election.
Well, I think you're correct about that, and Tapper is wrong. Look, the CIA is only one of 17 different intelligence agencies, and we've also heard that the FBI apparently disagreed with the CIA assessments, and in fact, Fox News had a story that the director of national intelligence, and that's the person who's charged with speaking on behalf of all of these intelligence agencies, is apparently not on the same page as the CIA. So there's a lot of other people in other intelligence agencies who are questioning the assessment that the CIA has put out. So saying that somehow is conspiring with our enemies is ridiculous. I expect better from Jake Tapper.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard the tail end of my conversation just before I got to you. I was talking to one of the 10 electors from the state of Missouri who seems to have a very good grasp, even though he admits that he was not originally a Trump supporter, on what his duties are when he turns out to vote next Monday. This is a long shot on the part of these folks, and a rather desperate one, in my opinion, to try to convince these electors that something fishy went on in this election.
Yeah, and that's what's wrong about this. Look, Christine Pelosi, who's the daughter of Nancy Pelosi, she's the person leading this demand for an intelligence briefing. Well, what is it that she's demanding to know? She's demanding to know who spilled the beans to the American public to tell them what was actually going on inside the Democratic Party. Now, I can see why she'd be embarrassed about that, but that's not a valid reason to delay the vote. It certainly isn't a valid reason for Trump electors to change their vote, although it might be a reason for Clinton electors to change their vote, given the fact this revealed how the DNC was basically lying.
Yeah, nobody's ever questioned the truth of what was inside of the emails, whether it was true or false. Everybody's accepted, well, this, a lot of this stuff was opinion, but they dismissed Catholics and Hispanics and and African Americans, they were pretty much equal opportunity offenders.
Right, and I'll tell you something else that people have missed. There have been a couple of stories about this, but in the midst of anonymous sources inside the CIA saying that they think Russian hackers did this, there was a story about how Craig Murray, he's a former British ambassador to Uzbekistan, and he's actually a close associate of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. He says WikiLeaks didn't get these documents from a hacker. He said they got it from a DNC insider who was a whistleblower.
I saw that. It was in the Daily Mail today. That was a great story.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
that's being ignored.
Because it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't help.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know I'm not asking for you to play opinion politics here, but I can't help but getting back to the fact that the Democrats are so injured by losing that they've decided they're going to have to somehow damage Donald Trump severely before he takes office to try to possibly limit what he can get accomplished in the first 100 or 200 days or the first year or two.
No, that's exactly what's going on. They are trying to damage the legitimacy of his election win because they want to use that to not only oppose all his nominees, his policies over the next couple of years, but they want to use that for the next election, which they're already campaigning on.
Absolutely, they are. Hans von Spakovsky, a senior legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation, thanks so much for your time today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Love getting Hans on there and picking his brain over some of this stuff.